what happens is that we have an awakening because something happened to us, like an accident or an illness or a loss or something, and everything falls down, and we're sitting there in the ashes, saying, "What the hell? What's going on?" And we have the opportunity to actually choose what to pick back up. Like, do I really want that thing again, or do I want to do something different? But most of the time, we don't awaken.
Welcome back to my channel. I am Life Coach Meg Ellis, and I'm here to help you create your best life ever. And I have such a gift for you today. This podcast episode is out of this world. I actually am recording this intro right after we recorded, and wow. I have Rick the Story Healer. Dr. Rick Diamond is here to talk to you everything about the stories that we tell ourselves in our heads that run the show. So if you are somebody who is feeling overwhelmed, stressed, ridden with anxiety, depression, things aren't working out for you, you are probably subscribing to a story that, guess what, you don't have to subscribe to anymore. On today's episode, Dr. Rick breaks down all of these stories that we tell ourselves that are actually holding us back and keeping us from living our best life ever. And I just have to tell you, I have to share with you, it is meant to be that he is here on this episode today, because a couple weeks ago, I was meditating and I said, hey, in this meditation, I am open to receiving something amazing today. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I got on Instagram a little while later and I had started following Rick the Story Healer, and I loved his content. Whatever he had talked about that day really spoke to me in his reel. And I said to myself, you know, I would love for Dr. Rick to come onto my show and share this knowledge about everything that we're about to talk about in this episode. I'd been wanting to do an episode like this, but I'm not the expert in it. And I looked at his page and I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to reach out and actually ask him if he would come on the show and talk to you guys about these stories that we tell and how they are actually holding us back and trapping us away from our soul, who we are, our essence, our soul's purpose down here. What are we actually doing with our lives? What can we do? And Dr. Rick is here to tell you everything that is available to you so you can create your best life ever, so you can live every day awake in your best life ever. So I hope you enjoy this episode. This episode is for you. This is something that I really, truly just would love for you to know, absorb, and live by, because this helped me so much. So without further ado, Dr. Rick, the Story Healer. Dr. Rick, the Story Healer, thank you for coming on Create Your Fate this morning.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Meg, for having me.
Oh my God, of course. Well, I saw you on Instagram. I started following you a couple months ago, and something about your page just speaks to me, and it was just so spot on for where I am in this point in my life, and it's so aligned with what I believe, what I practice, what I teach. And I knew that I just had to have you on the show to talk about everything that you do. So give us a little, just tell us about you. Give us some background. How did you get started? What is the Story Healer? We want to hear it all.
Thank you so much. I love the energy that you're putting out and your practice and the things that you're modeling for the people that are following you. And so we're mutual fans of each other. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing and for having me on. I came up with the term Story Healer because in working with people in lots of different settings, in spiritual direction, in groups, in retreats, in workshops, in consulting with companies, and just being one-on-one with people, it's clear, isn't it, that all of us at some level are operating with assumptions or patterns or beliefs because of what I call a story. And
Yes.
the story can be anything from, it can be super complicated, like a macro story, like everything that our culture tells us about masculinity, or everything that our culture tells us about femininity, or everything that our culture tells us about success, or everything that our culture warns us about scarcity. Like, those are, for me, big macro stories. But it can be even something as simple as a client I was working with not long ago said, "Do you know what? I was just asking her about what was going on because she had contacted me about something that was happening at work that was really troubling her." And I said, "So why don't we just have a session and you just talk about that?" And she started talking about what was going on with work and why this woman's pushing her buttons and why she's really getting mad. And then she said, "Oh my gosh, I have always been in charge of making sure my mother was happy." And I totally trust when people are in this process that like their deep intuition is going to tell them the thing that they need to look at, the thing that's available to them to look at for themselves. And so then my response was, so the story is that you've always been responsible for your mom's feelings, and or is that accurate? That you wanted made sure that you had to that you were responsible for making sure your mom was happy. And she said, "Yeah, I don't like that." And I said, "Oh, great. I mean, then that's it. Like that's everything. At that point, we can do whatever needs to be done for this person or for that group of people when they say, okay, that thing, that belief, that story, what do I want to, like we get to say, what do you want to do with that?" So for me, that's really my work. And for 10 years, I was a college English teacher, and it was all about helping people learn to think for themselves. And, uh, I was not very well behaved. I did not always do everything that was on the syllabus. We did a lot of, Robin Williams, Dead Poet Society, ripping pages out of the textbook and meeting outdoors and, asking questions and having debates and having bake-offs in class and, whatever.
I love that. Sign me up for that class.
Nobody wants to teach, wants to take or teach freshman composition. Do you know what I mean? And so I was like, well, so what can we do to actually make this about learning and growing? Because somewhere along the way, it occurred to me, just because somebody's teaching doesn't mean anybody's learning.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So what can we do to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to actually, if they want to grow and learn? And then I had a bunch of spiritual experiences, and I'd been raised in a church going sort of standard American home, and then just, blew that off. I'm in college. I don't have to worry about all that stuff. And then started having like meaningful spiritual experiences, which were weird. Like I didn't have any context for. And I ended up going to seminary and learning all these amazing big questions that theologians and philosophical inquiry and textual criticism have been asking about Jewish and Christian scriptures for centuries. And then I got into Buddhist thinking, and then I got into Hinduism, and then I fell in love with Native American spirituality. And then at that point, it was just like, I wanted to know everything. So I just grew and grew and grew. I was a regular minister in church settings for 10 years. Again, not always well behaved, did not always do what was on the syllabus. Because all I wanted to do is, right? Because I just wanted to be with people and what's happening with them, and is something awakening for them. And I wanted to jump in there, and we did that. And then I live in Austin, and I was fortunate enough, blessed, joyful to get fired from regular church. And I had a little group of people come together and say, well, what if we just did our own thing? And I led that faith community for 17 years here in Austin. Mm-hmm. And then out of that practice came and working with people about asking their questions, and always asking, what's the story? Like, what is the thing that you believe that's limiting you, or that you don't like, or that you want to, because a lot of people have had less than wonderful experiences with what they perceive as God or church or religion or belief or culture or whatever. And I just got to hold space for them and let them work it through. So that's what I get to do now all the time. It's great.
Wow. That is amazing. And to see even all the pieces kind of connect together of, it's funny when you look back, you say, oh, this is why I did that, or this is why I studied this, or this is why, and you don't always know in the moment. But looking back, it's like, wow, look at this beautiful painting that I have with all these different colors from all these areas of my life. And you can put them together, right, and create your own story, and not live by a story of, I have to abide by all of these things here.
Yeah.
Or the story is, a lot of people's stories, even in that religious setting, is, I have to abide by all of these things, all of the parts of this story, and all the other stories are incorrect or wrong. And you miss out on so many beautiful pieces of religion and spirituality, right? When you when you subscribe to that story. So
I think
let's
so
talk
too.
about these stories that we subscribe to. How does someone even begin to identify what is a story? We have these
Got it.
thoughts. You're telling me I don't have to believe them. What if I'm someone who I've never thought of that before? I don't have to believe these things that are in my head.
Hmm.
How do I know what a story is?
Great. Thank you so much. So for me, what I'm so interested in is helping each person connect to their deepest intuition, like their deepest knowing. Spiritual teachers have been saying for a long time that we have thoughts, but we're not our thoughts. I mean, think about it, because our thoughts come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And we have emotions, but we're not our emotions, because our emotions can change in an instant.
Very
And we have a
quickly.
body, right, exactly. And we have a body, but I mean, clearly I'm not this body. This particular body that I'm in is 63 and a half years old, because that's how old I am. But I mean, this was also the same body I had when I was 50 or 30 or 10, but it's not, because all the molecules of, all of the things that have been regenerated and changed and whatever. So it's really not like do you ever look at your body, especially if you're like me, if you're, like an older human being, and you look at your body and go, that doesn't look like it used to look, but it's still me. So I'm something, but I'm not this body. So what am I? The thing that we get caught up in is thinking I'm the story. I'm the programming. What's the first thing you do when people say, "Oh, hi, I'm blah blah blah. Hi, I'm blah blah." You give them the story, like
Mm-hmm.
it's the little framework. It's the elevator speech. It's
Right.
the, "Hi, I'm married to this person. I'm this old. I live in this place. I do this. Especially, I do this for a living. Right? This is what I do for a living. Like, what do you do? I like to,
Yep.
I read, and no. Like, what do you do for a living? Like, that's your definition of yourself. For me, there is what I call static stories. And static stories exist to tell us how the world works and what our place is in it.
Mm.
And a static story can be anything from, this is what a man is, this is what a woman is, this is what a good person is, this is what a bad person is, this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do. And everybody has template upon template upon template of static stories programmed into them from literally from birth, but certainly from the time that we're able to, even as babies and little toddlers, be able to figure out, we're looking around going, okay, how does this work? Who wants to
Right.
eat me? Who's going to be kind to me? What do I have to, if I cry, what do I get? If I am sweet, what do I get? Like, babies and children are always gathering the story to figure out, what's the world like, and what's my place in it, and how do I survive? Like, that's what
Right.
we're
Right.
doing as children and as
So even
youth.
as something as simple as if I'm really young and I'm looking around and our brain is really moldable whenever we're that young. It's like a sponge, right? We're just kind of
Yeah.
taking in everything. So if I'm looking around, if I'm, shopping in Target or looking at all the other girls or boys around me who are maybe a little bit older than me, maybe I can't even talk yet, but I'm thinking, oh, girls wear pink and boys wear blue. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one of our first stories that we've
Right.
maybe assigned with these
Yes.
static templates. I love how you said that, these template upon template. So we could have multiple stories.
Oh gosh, yes. We all are the product of multiple stories.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the thing that you were just talking about. When a child is in school, a child is at Target, a child is watching TV, a child is watching a movie, a child is interacting with not just their parents, but also their aunts and uncles and the other role models that are adults. What they're doing is they're gathering information so that they can figure out how to survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Like, that's what they're doing. And
Yes.
so what they don't realize is that the thing that they're gathering, they think, we all do this. This is what it means to come here and do this, have this experience. We're all gathering this information, and we think this is the definition of my selfhood.
Mm.
Like, if I figure out how girls are supposed to look, and then I can do that, and then I get a reward for that, if I get affirmation for that, if all the other girls, if the boys think I'm pretty and the girls accept me, and or whatever, then my sense of selfhood is enhanced and I feel better. and I feel good. And what it's all about at that level, especially for children, is survival. Am I good? Am I okay? Am I lovable?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
The other side of that is, what if we have a template that we're picking up on and it doesn't fit us, and we can't figure out how to make it work, and our sense of selfhood is diminished because we think, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever. Um, all of that is conditioned within the culture. I mean, all of that is called, there's no such thing as the one story that's true for all 8 billion human beings. I mean,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah,
All of it
there's
is
no
conditional.
there. Yeah, that's interesting. Everything is subjective, right? To whoever is
Right.
writing these stories or whoever is the
Mm-hmm.
creating these stories for us, or these templates for us to believe in. That's, there's no, if you think about it that way, there's no definition of what beautiful is, but there is a definition of what a societal standard of beauty is. But
Exactly.
if I've never thought about that before and I don't fit that societal standard of beauty, then my
Mm-hmm.
story is I don't fit this template per se.
Right.
So I must,
And
there I'm lacking it or I'm not good enough. And that's where these negative stories start to come from.
mm-hmm. And so, like, I would be curious for you to reflect on this too in your own practice when you're coaching people and helping people with getting their clarity about the life they want to live. The the biggest impediments to people being able to move forward, in my experience, and I'd love to hear yours too, is I can't do that because. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's some programming that they got from that story that told them you can't because, like, you can't because you're not blank enough, whatever the blank is, or this is
Yeah.
a path that's for these people, not for you. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, helping people see that that's just a story, that it's not an actual indictment of their selfhood, like their sacredness, like who they were really, really created to be, is
Yeah.
really like how big it is, how important it is to shift people from to just the like even the possibility. Oh, could this be for me? Like, is this even? Oh, what? I mean, you
Yes.
don't, and
I
then
love that take. Like, just entertain it. It doesn't have to be this end all be all, but are
mhm,
you willing to look at this through the lens of curiosity of, could it be this? Am I
mhm.
willing to just at least entertain it? I think it's so
Yeah,
powerful. And it's okay if the answer is a no.
sure,
Maybe you'll be ready. You can't force it. You have to be ready to do it and willing to do it. But when you take that step into that curiosity of, is this maybe my story? Or is it maybe come from this? And just that exploration, right? Where
mhm.
you might come to, no, but it's not this, but it might be this. Right? We kind of think of it like a little science experiment almost, let's
Yeah,
just see what it is. I don't know. And not being
we could just
afraid
try it
of saying, I
out.
don't know.
Right. The people who are willing to take a step into what's even possible. I know that there is the fear that if we fail, then we've messed up. Unless, of course, we came from a family of origin or a culture of origin or a religion of origin or whatever that told us, you know what, failure is great. Like, you should totally fail. You should totally mess up. You should totally do things wrong. You should totally try a recipe out and have it turn out terrible. Like, I
Yeah.
did not grow up in that kind of family of origin. I grew up in
Me
one that
neither.
was really scary and, oh my gosh, don't screw this up, whatever you do, and we'll all die. It was very terrifying. But I mean, there is something so beautiful about that moment when somebody says, "You know what? I mean, I could try it. I could try it out. I mean, I could see what would happen." And then
Hmm.
we, as the people that are supporting them and rooting for them and, coaching them and encouraging them and helping them, can go, "You can do it. You can, I mean,
Hmm.
I'll see you in a week. I want to report. How did it go?" The worst that could happen is I'll just see you in a week and then you'll tell me it was terrible. In which
Right.
case,
And
okay,
that's
great.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That concept of don't mess up,
Hmm.
because I have found a lot of people are perfectionists. That's something that, from the Enneagram lens, there actually is a type called the perfectionist, but everybody
Right.
has a lot of perfectionism in our stories, right?
Hmm.
And even the phrase of don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. is this story that I can't mess up. I can't mess up because, well, why, right? We never ask why. And
Good
what if
point.
well, and I guess I'll kind of go off into a little side tangent of one of my stories is I need approval from everybody. I need people to like me.
Mhm.
I like to be liked. I actually
Mhm.
don't like that like that quality about myself. I wish I didn't have it. My life would be much easier. But
Mhm.
something, and we'll get into this, but part of my purpose down here is to overcome this needing to be liked. And
Mhm.
we'll dive all into that. And I can't wait for y'all to hear Dr. Rick talk about this. You're just wait. But this was a part of my story. And what I realized, and this is what I've realized in coaching, is a lot of people, if you were to see this as a problem like a wound or a cut or something like this,
Mhm.
a lot of people are just treating their result.
Ah.
And this is where that why question comes in.
Mhm.
Me thinking that other people's opinion of me, first of all, me coming to the realization that I'm thinking your opinion of me matters more than my opinion of me, and seeking that external
Mhm.
validation is not the problem. It's the
Right.
result.
Right. Right.
And so we have to dig deeper into, well, the why. Well, why do you think
Mhm.
this is? Why do you think this is? Why do you think this is? And it took me years and years and years to finally realize where this need for approval came from. But the external validation was the result. The actual problem was I had this story that said, I'm only going to be okay if you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And until you treat the problem in that the actual story of
Mhm.
origin,
Mhm. Mhm.
you can treat the result, right? You can dab off the wound. You can say, oh, external validation doesn't bother me, but until you realize and learn to say, rewrite your story
Yeah.
of the root of the problem, that's what was a game changer for me. So what does it look like? How does a client come in and you hear a story and you can
Mhm.
probably say, I don't think this is the root of the story. How do
Mhm.
you get them
Mhm.
to identify that original story where everything
Right.
comes from?
No, you're dead on about the idea of getting to the thing itself, like the real thing that's really motivating of the other behaviors.
Mm.
Excuse me. Um, I am a big fan of I'm really convinced of this conviction that I have, which is that the soul is the deepest part of us, the intuitive part of us, the part that's eternal. Like I start all my reels by saying, "Hello, you beautiful eternal soul, having a human experience." Like
Oh,
I'm
I
convinced
love
that
that.
that's what we're doing. That's what's happening here. So this eternal soul that we are has a thing that it really wants to experience. It has something that it really wants to do. It has something that it's here for, and it's mine is in my body, and yours is in your body, and everybody else is in their bodies, and it has a thing that it knows is true, that is true, that is true. Period. And for me, the thing that is true, that is true, that is true. Period is that I am and you are love.
Mhm.
Period. That we are connected to source, that we're connected to the super consciousness, that we're connected to the ground of all being. I mean, all the amazing weird terms. I don't understand most of it. It's so lovely and strange. And I mean, it's great. I mean, how do you define that? I have a dear friend, a rabbi, who, when I asked how do you guys figure out what's true? The rabbi says, oh, we just argue. And I said, well, but I mean, how do you get to the end? And he said, get to the end. I mean, what are you going to define God? That's ridiculous. There's no such thing. I was like, thank you. Good point. Well said. Thank you, of course. The idea for me is that if that part of us that is big, 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 big and connected to like what is eternal, not just limited to what's happening in this time and space, it knows the thing that we are before all the stories got stacked on top of us.
Mhm.
Like it knows. So when I'm in a session with a client, or when I'm leading a retreat, or doing consulting with a group of people, it's always just about asking another question and saying, and there is always a thing under the thing. Like, here's an example. If this woman that I was working with, who I mentioned, said, this woman at work is really driving me crazy. And I say, so tell me about what happens when this woman drives you crazy. And she says, this woman says this kind of thing to me, and the next thing I know, then I feel this. And I say, okay, so when you feel this, what does that tell you about you?
I love that question.
Right. So the idea is what I want to have happen is that when I look at the story, I see that the story is telling me about me. But the deepest part of me, my soul knows that's not me. Right. That's not the truth about who I am. And I love my mind. I love my wonderful mind. It is such a wonderful air traffic controller. Do you know what I mean? It is just managing experience and data and information all the time. And it has constructed such a wonderful self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the sense of self that is fake, right? The ego.
It's the ego. It is the thing that we have constructed to be able to function in the world, which I get, which is great. It's good to have. And that's not the thing that's down in here. So for me, the more questions we can ask to keep getting to the thing that's down in there, we will get to the story that you were talking about, like the base story, the real one that maybe was wounding, or really was. It doesn't have to be wounding. It doesn't have to be negative. But in some ways, it defined direction and identity. So for me, that rooted down all the way down story from when I was a little boy that I kept reinforcing was be good. Be good. Be a good boy. Be a good boy and make people happy, and you'll be safe. Be a good boy and follow the rules, and you'll get rewarded. Be a good boy and make people happy, and you won't die alone in a gutter somewhere. I mean, the extrapolations of that base story are so ridiculous. They just go on and on forever.
Yeah.
But for me, it took a long time of really digging into what is the thing itself, like all the way down in there, that really got to directing me as to how to behave. And that's what in response to your question, that's what the work of looking for the story is. It's just saying, what brought you to this place? We're not even going to judge it. In fact, we're going to honor the story, whatever the story is. Of course, we're going to honor the story. I mean, you've been carrying it around for 30 years. Right. It's a part of what you got you here. And where you are now is sacred. Like, everything that brought you here is sacred and beautiful, especially the terrible parts, especially the painful parts. All of them were a gift because they help bring you to where you are. And where you are is where transformation can happen. It can't happen someplace else because we're not someplace else. We're here. So this is it.
We're here. Wow. I love everything that you just explained, because I believe that, and it's so true, because I have been on my conscious healing journey, for years and years now. And it really does come down to, what is this telling me about me?
Right.
And this is why I love the Enneagram. And I know you told me you were Enneagram 9, which makes so much sense. Like, make sure everyone has what they need. Be good. And then I'm going to be safe, or I'm going to be lovable.
Right.
For me, it was make sure I'm as an Enneagram 7. You have to be happy. Like, you're lovable as long as you have what you need. So if I'm not getting something from somebody, right, this lovable, I approve of you, I like you, let me just go out and find somebody who does, and that's what we do. Like, this will make me happy. This will make me happy. This person will make me happy. And that's why I love the Enneagram, because it kind of breaks down, it gives you a generalized direction of, it's probably in this realm, right? It's a little magnifying glass. But regardless of what your type is, your personality is not who you are. And a lot of people think, this is just how I've always been. It's too late to change. Well, no, your wall might be a little taller, and that's okay, but it doesn't mean you can't break it down. And I describe, your essence, your soul comes down, and I want you to talk about this because you're the expert, which is why I'm like, oh, you got to come on the podcast. But it's your essence, and then we grow this little protective barrier around your essence, and it's the super ego, or what we can identify as your personality, or these stories that we tell ourselves to protect ourselves in the world as we define it as we grow up. But and we can think, I think when you said to not judge these stories when they when you realize them, that is, I think, a hard thing I know it was hard for me to do. But really, it's coming to this place of gratitude of like, hey, thank you, ego, for keeping me safe.
Yes.
You did your job, but I don't need you anymore.
Right.
I'm ready to tap into, hey, what's behind this protective wall, this barrier keeping me safe? And that's that beauty of the essence. And that's who you are. So that question of what is this telling you about you? The more you answer that question honestly, it just takes this wall down a little bit so you can start to see and feel and experience and let out and live your essence. Because your life is never about the lady at work who's making you mad. It's never about the driver who's making me mad. It's never about my partner who said something triggering. It's, in one of my favorite quotes, which I'm sure you've heard, is, thank you, universe, for showing me where I'm not healed yet every time you're triggered. Because people don't trigger you. People show you what your triggers are.
Yes.
So when you take that, how do you shift it from, how do people respond actually when this woman comes in and she's telling you, this lady's the problem, this lady's the problem, she did this, she did this, she did this. How do you get her to see, well, actually, this is about you, without having this lady, get mad and say, you don't know what you're talking about, I just wanted to vent?
She might get mad and she might say, I just wanted to vent and you're not any good at this, which is fine. It's fine. It is fine, because that will all be part of her process. And her process. I find that many, many times people need to, when they get in touch with the story at some level, even if we're only 1 or 2 levels down, they need to get angry. And because they're already angry. Because if it's a story, as so many stories are, think about it, Meg, in our culture, so many stories really rob us of like the fullness of our experience. They tell us, you can't be this, you can't be that, you can't be this, you can't be that, you can't want this, you can't feel that. Everything about all the taboos that they tell us about our body or our feelings or our sexuality or our desires or our hopes or our dreams, blah, 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 all the way down to, there's just something fundamentally wrong with you, right? You're flawed, you're sinful, you're bad, you're whatever. When people get in touch with the fact that it's not them, it's a story, they get mad. And I'm glad, because they've been mad. And what they were mad about was the sense that they were being hemmed in and made smaller and being told no, especially women. Yeah. Way more so in our culture. This is much more true in our culture for women than it is for men. And I'm not saying that men don't have the things that they have to struggle with because of this ridiculous patriarchal culture we live in. Men are victims of patriarchy as well. But as one woman said recently, when I was talking to her about men, and I was like, I have a men's group and we're doing our best and we're trying to evolve as quick as we can, but we're really slow. And she said, you know why men aren't any more advanced than they are? She said, because they haven't had to be. I was like, yeah, you're right. She said, it's the women who are doing all the growing because we've had to. And I was like, absolutely, you're right. All those messages that our culture has told us about what we can and can't be and who we can and can't be and what we are allowed to want or dream of or hope for. When people get in touch with the fact that those stories, those beliefs were limiting, they may get mad. They may grieve. They may need to beat on a pillow for a while. They may, sometimes I work with clients like every week. Sometimes I work with clients that say, you need about 3 weeks after the session we just had of moving furniture around in your heart. You know what I mean? Like you need to go. How about we wait a couple of weeks and let this integrate? Do you know what I mean? Because it was just a lot. In which case, if somebody gets mad or somebody doesn't want to see that the story is their own story, all I reassure them is, you're not the story. You're not the story. This is a story that was imposed on you. This is a story that your parents or your culture or your church or your workplace or your friend group or whatever's come up. That's where this came from. It's not you. And that little germ of hope right there. Well, if I'm not the story, then I can choose something different. Like I can be something different. Everything after that will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew, that's powerful. And you said something earlier about being the observer of our thoughts, right? Where all this data comes in, and it's actually more than we can even compute consciously. So
For sure.
all this data comes in, and here I am. We essentially pick the data that comes in based off of everything that's happened to us in the past, and all these basically data where we essentially look for data to support the story.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's not
For
even
real.
fair.
Right.
It's not even fair. But that's what your brain does to trick you. And so we're kind of looking for the way to make this story even, stronger, because it's easier to just think a supportive thought than it is to come up with a whole new one. And so when I'm doing that, I am identifying as the data.
Yes.
I am the data. I am the story. But if you're saying, okay, all these thoughts that are in my head, I don't have to believe them. I can just simply say, this is the data. So you're asking me to take a step out, look at the data, and say, what am I going to do with this data? And do I even like it?
Right.
And if
That's
I
it.
don't, then I can write a new one. Wow.
Think about the times when. Thank you for all that. That was great, by the way. Thank you. Way to
Sure.
connect the dots.
Take it.
Absolutely.
It's yours.
It's beautiful. Think about how sometimes what happens is that we have an awakening because something happened to us, like an accident or an illness or a loss or something, and everything falls down, and we're sitting there in the ashes, saying, "What the hell? Just where am I? What's going on?" And we have the opportunity to actually choose what to pick back up. Like, do I really want that thing again? Do I really want, or do I want to do something different? But most of the time, we don't awaken. What we do is we just go back to like, okay, the house just burned down. Well, let's just build something else just like it, and or that relationship ended. I need another one. I need to. That job didn't work out.
Or if you're like me, no, everything's fine. The house is not burning down, and you're like surrounded by flames. Like everything's fine.
I'm good. It's great. It's a beautiful
perfect.
day.
I don't need another house.
I'm living my best life. This is it.
But yeah, in flames.
So the idea of seeing a crisis as an opportunity to do what you were just talking about, to say, wait a minute, so if that thing that I thought was true about this marriage or about this relationship or about this thing that I've been choosing with my life or this pattern or this religious belief or whatever, if I actually can choose what I want, which of course we can, because we are all the time. It's just that we're not aware that we're choosing all the time, but we are choosing all the time, as you were saying, and we're choosing to just let in the data that reinforces the story because it's familiar and because it makes sense for us, and because that way we don't have to change or evolve or grow, because the default mode network personality is like, I just want stability. I just want stability. And then we don't want to evolve. But we do want to evolve. Like the soul wants to.
Ego,
wants the whole
protective
thing.
barrier, does not want to evolve. Well, but the essence is like, no, we came here to evolve. You're not letting me evolve.
Right.
So I describe it when I coach as, well, your ego. Its job is to protect you, right? That's why you have an ego. And it's great, but as we've evolved, the ego protects us from less, right? There's no lions chasing us. Right. It's just, my feelings got hurt because nobody, read my book or liked my Instagram post or opened my email or liked me or swiped right on me or, whatever.
Yep.
Like, and that's, you can say that like, that is sad. Like you can not deny it. Like, that does sting.
Right.
But your ego, it stings your ego because your ego likes that it doesn't have to protect you from much because it
Mm-hmm.
likes you to be predictable. So
Mm-hmm.
it will do anything in its power to make your life as predictable as possible.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Yeah. It doesn't want us to risk. It doesn't want to make things unpredictable because
No.
then it'll have to work that much harder to protect us from that much more.
Right. I don't know how to protect you if you quit your job and start your own business. I don't know what to do. I'm not
Got
going to
it.
have a job. Right? Job
Mm-hmm.
security. Let's keep you in your 9 to 5.
Right.
So, but Essence is like screaming out like, I came here to do this. Please let me out.
Yes. Yes. I
And
wonder if the ego, that constructed self is almost sort of like the scared friend. Do you know what I mean? Who's just like, oh, you
yes.
don't risk that. Are you sure? Do you want to? I mean, have you, whatever? And it's in there all the time saying, oh, I don't know. That seems like a lot. I don't know if should we do that? Right? I mean,
Yes.
that friend their advice is only so good.
Right.
I mean,
And
it's
thanking
limited
the
and
friend. Thank you. I appreciate you looking
mm-hmm,
out for me. Thank you for
mm-hmm,
your discernment. Thank you
mm-hmm,
for thinking 3 steps ahead in case all these things happen.
mm-hmm.
But I don't need you to run the show right now.
It's
Let's
big.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, do you really think you came down here to live a predictable life?
Oh man. No. Oh my
Like
gosh.
I've coached thousands of people. I've never heard once like, I really just want to live a predictable life.
Who wants that? I mean, I know we want that, but who wants that? I mean, really?
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Deep down, your soul, your essence did not come down here to live a predictable life. So let's segue into that. Okay, actually, I'm going to ask one more question
Yeah.
before we segue into this because
Okay.
you mentioned a lot of times people have an awakening when something bad happens, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
something traumatic or
Mm-hmm.
a big life change. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't really want to have to go through that. If I'm interested in an awakening, I kind of feel like I'm living like a zombie, but I don't want to go through something really, really bad to get to
Mm-hmm.
the awakening part. Is
Mm-hmm.
there a way for me to get it now without going through that? So if someone is like, okay, I'm entertaining this idea of like I've kind of been coasting through life. I've kind of been asleep, right? I've never
Mm-hmm.
really thought about my thoughts. I've just identified as them. But I'm interested in this awakening, but I don't want to have
Mm-hmm.
to like burn the whole house down. Can
Right.
I like what would I do? What's my next step into dipping your toe into an awakened state of life?
Yeah, that's a great question because, I mean, surely it doesn't have to be that the whole house burns down. It doesn't have to be that we suffer some cataclysmic loss to move into a place of openness, just being open,
Mm-hmm.
right? Really, for me, it's not about that I have it figured out or that I know what to do. It's just that I'm open to the possibility of something different, to the possibility of evolving and leveling up and changing and growing and whatever. The thing that is really beautiful about your question for me is the choice is there all the time for us to say, I'm going to take one step. For me, the answer to your question is to just do one thing, not everything. I'm now going to wake. I'm now going to awaken. I'm now going to become enlightened. But how about just like I'm going to do one thing? I'm going to change one practice. I'm going to add one. And then people immediately, the self, the ego, the protector goes, well, we tried meditation before, it didn't work, so we shouldn't do that. Blah blah blah. All
Yeah,
the
their story is your brain works too much. You can't meditate.
So, I mean, so we shut that down. So we don't do that. Then there's another opportunity. We don't do that. And the next thing you know, 9 closed doors later, they just say, well, screw it. I'll just go back to sleep. In which case,
Yeah.
okay, well, the opportunity will come later. I mean, I'm just saying it'll come.
Yeah, and
right?
sometimes it might end up being one of those catastrophic events where,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah.
hits you in the face
Yeah.
and you have nothing left, right?
Right. what I would hope for is, and it does happen. I mean, I have people that I work with where this happens, where they just say something inside me is nudging me, it's talking to me, it's calling to me. Like, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, where he talks about the call to adventure. Like, I can feel something drawing. And if somebody just says, I'm just going to take one step, like read that one book, I'm going to get that one meditation app, I'm going to go to that one retreat, I'm going to start following that one person on Instagram, or I'm going to just, it can be one thing, even if it's just, I'm going to change one piece of of the ordered thing that I have so far. I'm just going to slide one thing out of order and then just see what happens. Just see what happens.
Right.
I mean, I have a disclaimer for everybody, which is, here's the thing that you need to know about enlightenment. You still have to walk the dog and pay the bills and cook dinner and do the dishes. And I mean,
Yes. I think you had a reel on that the other day and I loved it. Like, here I am picking up dog poo in my enlightened state. Saw.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's not as if somehow we're all going to turn into the Buddha. Do you know what I mean? Like, Buddha,
right.
Buddha doesn't, the word Buddha just means awake. That's all. Like, the Buddha and everybody else who is awakened is just awakening. We just are waking up and going, oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. Oh, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. And I love it. It's like, kind of like, what's the point of awakening? Because asleep kind of sounds easy.
Yeah.
Predictable and easy. Yeah. Your ego is going to fight you on this, because anytime you have any type of change, your ego is going to say, that needy friend. I love that, the way you depicted that. Like, oh, are you sure you want to do this? This sounds really hard. Just this is working out fine for you. Let's just do this instead. And, really nothing changes if nothing changes. So I loved also what you said. It can be something super, super small. And one phrase that I love is, you got to shake it up to wake it up.
Nice.
I don't think I made that up. I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere, but
it's good.
It doesn't sound like I made it up, but it's good, right? Shake it up to wake it up. So shake up one thing. Maybe that means even, hey, don't think all of your data in your head is truth. Just ask yourself, well, what am I assigning truth to? Or what is this telling me about me, right? You get into a fight with your counterpart at work. She's making you really mad. Okay, what is this telling me about me? And that's even just a quick little question that you can do. It doesn't have to be this, every morning I wake up and I meditate for 75 minutes and, I'm never going to drink again, or I'm going to get rid of all my friends, and go live on a mountain somewhere.
That doesn't work, by the way. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, wherever you go, there you are, right? I mean,
yes, wherever you go, there you are. Wow.
Yeah. So the thing that you're talking about, which I think is so wise, is inviting people into the possibility for something shifting. Shake it up to wake it up, even if and the waking up is not guaranteed, and there's no results aren't guaranteed for what happens when you wake it up. But the point is to just wake it up and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
curiosity.
Let's see what we learn. Yeah. Let's see what,
Yeah.
And I know the sweet friend is going to try and talk us out of it. There are gatekeepers in our heads and all around us all the time. That's a whole chapter in the book that I'm writing about story work. It's just called Gatekeepers. I mean, because that's all of the obstacles and all of the things that we do to talk ourselves out of evolving and growing and leveling up. I get it. And they don't get to, no, gatekeepers, you do not get to keep me from evolving. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it is. It's this. So let's talk about evolving, going back to my segue into before the tangent, which I was like, no, we got to dive. I have one more question I desperately want you to answer. So, we have this ego that's trying to gatekeep us from evolving. And what does evolving mean, first of all, for your soul to evolve, or this essence to evolve? When you say that, what do you mean?
So my sense of what's happening in this human experience is it's shifted a lot from the Western belief that I grew up with and that I knew as the whole world for a long, long time, probably into my 30s when I started asking bigger spiritual questions. And the thing that I that I no longer believe about that sort of Western mindset is the split that we have between body and mind and spirit. Like, I feel like a big part of what we are all conditioned to is that, the body is bad, or the body is base, or or our feelings are bad, or you can't trust your feelings, or you can't trust your urges, or whatever. And on the other hand, we're just supposed to have our mind on heavenly things, and it's supposed to be this very ethereal whatever. And that cut people off from nature. It cut people off from the idea of our connection to the earth. It cut people off from each other. The idea that we're all in this one little, each of us is like has a one shot to show up, perform really, really well. At the end, there'll be a big tote board on Judgment Day, and we'll be told either, yes, you did the right things and you get in, or you did the bad things and you get out. And it's all about reward, punishment, heaven, hell, sin, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe any of that. Like, that doesn't make any sense in terms of the depth of what I understand about human experience and spirituality across many, many, many traditions. For me, what I think is happening, and I hear this, strangely enough, this is fascinating to me too. I hear this echoed a lot in the accounts of people who have had near-death experiences. And they come back and talk about what they experienced on the other side after this. And they come back and go, it's all love, man. It's all love, and whatever. And then I hear this in the space where people are using psychedelics to be in healing modalities, not recreational, but like, I have work to do. And it's all love, man. It's all love, man. The thing that I think we are here to do is we are not these isolated little beings who are dropped here like orphans and left and told, well, we're not giving you any instructions except for whatever family of origin or culture of origin you're in. Good luck. And at the end, you're going to be judged. Yeah. Right? That doesn't seem fair at all. It's not. But on top of that, it doesn't seem congruent with what I see in nature and what I see in the human experience, which is, I think we're here to evolve by growing and learning. And I think, and I don't think, I know that we can't screw it up. Now, immediately when I say this to people, they say, yeah, but what about? And then they list suffering, or they list, murderers, or they list, all the stuff that's on whatever their particular bad list is. I get it. What I counter is, I think that the whole human experience is sacred. I think it's beautiful. I think it's what we're here to experience. And the more we experience, the better. So it may be that somebody comes here and they signed on for, I've had a lot of lifetimes. I believe in reincarnation in whatever form. I don't understand how it works. I don't understand it at all. But I believe that something is happening. If it's more than one lifetime, great. If it's only one lifetime, great. Either way, I think that what happens is that we have the option to either wake up and say, I want this whole thing. Like, I want it. And I want to learn and grow and be in it. Or I just want to sleep through the whole thing. I just don't want to feel all this. I don't want to do all this. I don't want to whatever. At the end, I'm quite convinced there's a celebration either way. It's not like we're getting experience points. You only got to level 7, so you only get the reward that goes with this. I think either way, there's a gigantic celebration. But the more we are willing to risk, the more we're willing to learn, the more we are willing to lose, the more we are willing to screw up, the more we are willing to say, I don't know. How can I evolve? I mean, look at children. They just want to play and experience things and put their fingers in things and eat things and try things. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's our essence. That's who we are. That's what we're here for. I love the interpretation of the Adam and Eve story, which is that what Adam and Eve were doing was they were growing up. Like, they were saying, here's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Don't eat this fruit. And they both went, or we could eat that. And then we could evolve and become more and grow. And then God says, okay, well, you're going to go out into the world now. Well, that's what adults do. Okay, go out into the world. Here we go. It's going to be hard. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, that's a different take on the one that I grew up with.
Yeah. So for me, if our evolving as human beings is really just about the willingness to live the whole experience, the whole human experience. And and our story is that we have to get it right or we'll be punished and
Yeah.
love will be taken away from us. At least that's the story that I internalized, and every other person I've ever talked to has
Yeah.
internalized.
Yeah.
If I screw it up, love will be taken from me and I'll
Yeah.
be rejected and alone. And I think it's the opposite. I think we're supposed to just do the whole, and it's a mess and it's good. And for the people who are in lots and lots of pain, and for the people who are experiencing pain, this is not to say that their suffering is not real. This is not to denigrate or to diminish their experience and say, well, it's just suffering. I mean, we're here to just evolve. That's not honoring. That's not honoring to their experience. What I get to do in my work is sit with people in their pain and in their loss and in their suffering and say, and this too is a gift because this is part of what you came here for. And I believe we come here with a whole list of things that we're supposed to learn, that we're supposed to encounter, that we're supposed to be faced with. And then we just get the opportunity over and over and over and over and over to do it.
Right. Well, that goes back to your good morning, you eternal, I'm probably going to mess it up, but eternal, beautiful soul having a human experience.
Right.
When I, was on my journey to awakening or whatever you want to call it, my path to enlightenment, I'm climbing up the mountain to the sunrise.
Yep.
Whenever I was going through some shit, we'll call it that.
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
That's a better way to put it.
Totally.
And I came across this idea of your soul purpose, your soul journey, your soul contracts, your soul tribes, all these things of we are a soul. And I had grown up very similar to you from the sounds of it. I had always heard the term soul, right? That was part of my religious upbringing, but I never really identified with it within me, right? Within my body. Within my whole being. And when I, started entertaining again from the lens of curiosity, this, I'm just a soul down here having a human experience. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but it helped me process and accept things of this is part of my experience. And to say it in the most simplest way, it made it feel less bad,
Yes, absolutely.
Where I didn't identify with it. I identified with experiencing it. And I'll say this in my layman's term way of what I understand about your soul purpose. So your soul's up there, wherever souls are.
Wherever.
And it's all love, right? It's all love. And we don't even, as a souls are kind of like flipping through this little book, like, hey, I'm going to go down on earth and I want to experience human contrast because I don't know what that feels like. And I think I would like to do that. So let me flip through this book of things that I could experience, and I'm going to sign up for some, kind of like you're signing up for classes in college, or you're going to summer camp. Like, okay, I want to do rock climbing, I want to do zip lining, and I'm going to do the trust falls,
Right.
And we sign up for these things. Like for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for a lifetime of seeking my mother's approval and never feeling like I'm going to get it. I'm going to sign up for the person who I thought I was going to marry traumatically dying at the age of 23. And then I'm going to sign up for divorce at 30 because I'm going to also sign up for not healing any of that stuff because I've also signed up for not acknowledging negative emotions. So that's my summer camp experience. I think that sounds great. Where do I sign up?
Right.
And so then we come down here with this soul journey. So talk to me. I mean, I just said it kind of.
You're rocking it.
Peanut butter and jelly style.
No, it's great.
Talk to me about more in depth about this whole process. Where am I right? Am I wrong? What's going on?
I don't know, Meg. I thought that was badass. I think it was perfect. I'm not sure that I would actually change any of that. I'm just going to add on to it. The idea that we have. I'm convinced that we have like whole teams of spiritual beings. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're angels. I don't know how this works. Again, I'm so open to being very, very, very limited in my understanding of all of this stuff, but I can feel it in the people who talk about it, that when it really resonates, it resonates for me. And in sessions when I'm working with people and I invite in our helpers, whether you call them angels or spirits or ancestors or whatever, like something shifts energetically. Like we feel it, like we feel that those spiritual helpers are with us, and it's beautiful and it's meaningful. And ironically, I never felt this in 30 years of ministry, like in the church.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of had a hint of it. I could feel it when something was happening for people, like in their heart, like for real, like something meaningful. And yet when I let the rule book go, and I just said, anybody who wants to help is welcome. Do you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it was just like, oh, there's lots of help. There's there's just angels all over the place. Do you know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous. So I think that our soul, this beautiful thing that we are, says, I want to have these experiences and I want this, this, and this, and this. And depending on what culture or what religious background or what tradition you're from or what part of your world from, it might be that it has many lifetimes to work out that checklist that you were talking about, or maybe it's just this lifetime and I'm going to come knock it out and here I go and we're going to see what happens or whatever. Some people talk about that being karma, and karma for a lot of people, they think, well, that just is bad. Like I'm going to have to work off my karma. But for me and many people that I've studied, karma simply is a description of this is the work that I'm doing. Like this is my job, my soul's job. And so it might be that, I'm convinced that I and my mother, Mary Ann, and my father, Dick, yes, my dad's name really was Dick Diamond, which is awesome.
Oh my gosh, that is an amazing name.
Right. And so Mary Ann and Dick and I and my little sister, Stacy, and my first wife and my now wife and my son and my daughter and my grandfather and my other ancestors all planned together. Here are the 10 things on Rick's checklist, and how can we support Rick in his time on Earth in experiencing those things, in learning those things. And everybody knew some of it was going to feel really shitty. Like some of it was going to feel really hard. Some of it was going to be really painful. We're all clear that, Dad's going to leave, right? And Dick's like, yep, I'll leave when you're 7. Like that's part of the deal. Like that's part of how you're going to learn this. And Mary Ann, my mother, signed on and said, by the way, are we all clear that I'm going to be signing up to have narcissistic personality disorder and be violent? Like, does everybody, that's part of the plan? And her parents were like, yep, that's part of the plan because we're going to help you with blah, blah, and you're going to get to experience blah, blah. And then her second husband and third husband and fourth husband were there, and they all planned out. Like, it sounds ridiculous. And
no,
really
it doesn't.
I really believe that we are like, this is orderly in the sense that we are helped, that there is a design to what's happening with our experience, in which case it's so helpful for me. The thing that you were saying earlier, Meg, about how I can see this thing and I don't identify with it. I can just look at it and I can say, this is not me. This is the experience I'm having, or this is the story, or this is the belief, or this is the pain, or this is the whatever. And I can look at it. All of it then, the whole thing, everything is purposeful, in which case the whole thing is a gift.
Yeah.
So for me, the question becomes moving from, is my life happening to me, or is my life happening for me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not just the stuff that I like happening for me, but the stuff that's painful, or the stuff that's struggling, or the stuff that's whatever, that's stretching me or giving the opportunity to level up, like in a video game.
Yeah. Literally.
Literally leveling up in a video game. You don't get to do that unless you go through the trials and you find the tools and you get the information and you fight the boss and you whatever else. Like that's what this is. And then at the end, when we are lent these beautiful bodies to use for a while, and then at the end, we give them back to the Mother Earth and say thank you. And then there is a big party. Like I'm convinced that that's what happens.
Here for the party.
Right? Because then the whole idea of a life review is not, oh, it's judgment day. I'm going to be so embarrassed about how I screwed everything up. No, it's a celebration because all of those people, all of those angels, all of that joy, all of that God, if you want to use that term, celebrates the experience of us being so brave and willing to come here
Yeah.
and live this and do it. Like we're heroic for having come here and done this. And people say, yeah, but what about the murderers? I'm like, what is the deal with the fascinating, you're so obsessed with the murderers.
How much of your personal journey has involved murderers? But hopefully very minimal. But, there are.
But
what's the
look, the thing is,
murderers?
I'm just saying, but my point is, look, if all we're going to do is say that it's meaningful if it went my way or it was pleasant, sorry, that's not. Where's the growth in that? Where's the expansion in that? How do I get bigger and stronger and more beautiful living in a petri dish that's this deep? No, we're doing the whole thing. I want all of it. All of it.
Yes, and you can have all of it, but you can't if you're asleep. There's very few things you can do while you're asleep, right? So,
that's deep. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Take it, use it, spread it.
No, that's great.
But that's true, right? You have to. You want to change your life, you got to wake up. And I love the concept of this. So the people who all are like, hey, I'll be your mom and I'll come down here. I've also read that we don't necessarily know how, because we don't have the human emotion and the human contrast and the feelings associated with that as a soul. So we don't necessarily know what, like, hey, just let you know, when we go down there, this is going to hurt. And we're just kind of this oblivious thing, like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Because you don't know exactly what it is going to feel like, because we don't have feelings necessarily to what we can compute in a human experience. That's why we come down to experience them, right? It's not like wait, let me sign up to be the bad guy because I want to get you back for the last time. It's not necessarily like exactly that. It's just like
we don't get that. Yeah.
I'll help you, like I'll help you. I will come down here and be your mom and treat you differently than I treat all of the other kids. And at least that was a story that I had for a long time. And that's a whole other podcast, but that's a whole other one. But, that was when I started subscribing to this, right? And really, it resonated with me and it made me feel really good. And this was actually the first realm, we'll call it, where I ended up finding a lot of forgiveness because it opened up a world of forgiveness for me, because I could see my mom as, you're being really terrible to me after I got divorced, or you're saying all these mean things to me, or this is how you treated me when I was growing up. I could see all of those things from this perspective of, well, you're just the soul who said you would sign up for this. Knowing that I would have moments of hatred towards you. You still signed up for that to help me overcome this lesson that I signed up for in summer camp over here, right? You said that you would help me with this, this lesson. And it allowed me to find a lot of forgiveness, but also allowed me to alleviate myself from self-induced responsibility for other people's journeys.
Absolutely. Yes. Because they're on their path. Whatever their sacred path is, whatever their soul journey is, that's
even
theirs.
If they're a murderer.
For them. Right. We should have an asterisk about murderers.
I'm going to have a little disclaimer in the show notes.
By the way, if you're triggered about murderers, you need to whatever.
Yes,
sure. You're exactly right. The ability to just be out of judgment about other people. I mean, healthy boundary setting, yes. But I mean, the whole, you're bad, you're my enemy, you're not what I want you to be. That every person, I'm convinced, and this is biblical too. Everything that comes to us is an opportunity. It's a gift, right? Every When Jesus says love your enemy, he's not talking about like you should love your enemy. He really means it. Like here is this person who is this opportunity for you to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You
Oh,
can you
yes.
can waste a lot of time hating them, or you can be grateful. You can love them. You can say thank you for the gift that you're giving me. I mean, that's really it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. And it's because again, it's all love, right? And we have
Yeah.
the option to tap into that in this human experience. And
Yeah.
from what I know, I see this as kind of like two lanes, right? Two sides of two things going on at the same time. And there's this big line that divides it. And it's the human experience and then the soul's experience. And I picture like all these souls who were in on, I think they call it your soul tribe. Like everyone who's part of your experience, you're going to come down. That's your soul tribe. So sometimes you can have multiple experiences with the same people. Maybe this time they were your mom. Next time they'll be your best friend. But you have these people. Have you ever met those people where like, we instantly connect?
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
I think we were in a lifetime or two or 80 together. You just have those people who you just know, like, we have been friends forever.
Yeah.
Or we have a special connection. Or for your soul tribe. But so, your soul tribe comes down here and you have all the other souls who are just like watching from above. And so you have these two lanes, and on the human side, it's like all this contrast that we came down to experience of like, oh my gosh, my mom, we just had this terrible fight. I got divorced and I didn't tell her before because I thought she would hate me and not love me. But here we are. I still had to tell her because my other thing I signed up for is confrontation and I can't ignore it anymore. And I have to have this conversation with my mom and she's still saying terrible things to me. And I'm so distraught and like I'm about to break and I feel so alone, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I have to have this conversation. And it feels awful on the human side. But then on like this other side of the coin, it's like the soul version, right? Where everyone's like, oh my God, she's doing it.
She's totally look at that. Everybody, look at gather around. Look over here. Right. Look at what Meg's doing. Look what Meg's doing.
Yeah, and they're like cheering you on, like yay.
Yes, I absolutely believe that. And so for me, when we are willing to go back to the thing about stories, when we're willing to look at what is not true about us, like our essence, that part of us that's really, really, really having this experience, when we say, wait a minute, I'm not that thing that they told me. I'm not that thing that limits me. I'm not that. Then we can let go of the things that restrict us, which means we can go even deeper into like, what can I really learn? Like, let me go further. Let me go more. Yeah. Let me go more. And part of the story, part of what we hear in the stories is what we're supposed to struggle with. If we've signed on for a particular kind of struggle about self-esteem or pain or loss or whatever, I get that. And then it can be time to let that go. And keep moving and learn something new and get even more awake and even bigger and even more brave, which is, I mean, that's the good stuff.
Yeah. Wow. I kind of lost myself in there, like just listening. I'm like, you're a story healer, but you're also such a good storyteller. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, the scenario you just painted was perfect for what it means to be human. It's really what, that whole thing you were just acting out. That's what we do all the time. And then we think that's real. When in fact, it's just the experience we're having given the situation that we're in, that we're reacting to, and and to be able to back up like you were doing and say, and see it from a level back and say, but this is purposeful, but this is good, but this is what I'm here to learn. This is the struggle I'm supposed to be in. Then again, it's just another gift, right? My life is for me, and the things that are happening in my life are for me.
Right. Going back to your client of this woman is making me so mad at work.
Right.
Hey, this woman is showing you something on your soul's journey. What is she showing you about you? Yes.
And then what do you want to do with that? Like just, you know what? I don't like bullies. Great. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Great. Let's talk about that. Yeah. I don't like bullies. What happens when you interact with a bully? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Well, let's keep going. And then we can just take it as far as we can go.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that so much. Oh,
Yeah.
this has been so enlightening and so
Oh,
enjoyable. I was looking
thank
forward
you
to
so
this
much.
for a long time. So
Me
thank you for
too.
coming on.
Me too. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. You're a great interviewer. This was so interesting. Such good questions. And thank you for how you're helping people live a really beautiful, meaningful life. I'm really
Thank
grateful.
you. Thank you. And I could say the same for you. It just, it's such an important and imperative message that, again, can help shift people out of anger, out of this self-induced responsibility of micromanaging
Oh,
everybody else's experiences. And that's something your
yes.
ego will do too, because it's like, oh wait, you
Oh,
can't focus on yourself. Look at all these other people who need your help.
look at all those other people that need
Look
your
at all
help.
these other people.
Oh my. Oh,
You
well, that
know,
was. Oh, that's too funny.
you can't focus on yourself. That would be selfish, right? I love that.
Oh
I
my
love that
gosh.
one. Enneagram
Oh my
twos,
gosh.
listen up. But
Yeah. Oh, the twos.
the twos, our
Oh,
lovely twos.
you gotta love
But
them. They're. I mean, they're always there.
yeah, that message. But it's just, it helps it break down to like, okay, personal development
Hmm.
isn't so scary. It can actually help you shift into forgiveness and just non-judgment and love and
Yeah.
just acceptance of yourself and others. And it's like, wherever you are in the world, who wouldn't want that? You're telling me,
Yeah.
wait, there's a way that I could have more forgiveness. I could stop feeling responsible for everybody else. I could
Hmm.
judge people and myself less and just generally have more love.
Hmm.
And there's a way I could do that. Are you
Mm.
interested in it? So I know you offer a lot of ways that people can venture down that journey. So tell us about your
Mhm.
offerings.
Thank you for asking. I am, as I mentioned, I'm writing a book
Mhm.
that's going to have exercise in it, and it's going to have a work. It's part of it is a workbook. The working
Yeah.
title is the Story Workbook, which is
Oh,
really
yeah.
fun. I'm having a great time. And I also work with people one on one, and they can just go to my website,
Hmm.
drrickdiamond.com. And there's lots of different ways to do that. They can do that by, like a package of sessions or a single session.
Sure.
And I just offer a free discovery call just to talk about what's going on with you or what's happening.
Hmm.
And I work with couples. And I also work with groups. I have a men's circle that meets in my house here in Austin on Tuesday nights,
Oh,
which
wow.
is lovely. And we meditate and we talk and we do, share life together and do the thing. And then I'm also going to be offering I think, an online men's circle in the spring of 2025.
Yes.
But we'll
Oh, that would be
see.
so powerful.
And I'm also offering a co-ed retreat in January of 2025 in Wimberley, Texas, outside of Austin at a retreat center. And it's going to be using the Hansel and Gretel story about feeling lost in the woods. And we're going to talk about helping each other come back home and find home. And
Wow.
we're going to have a sound bath, and we're going to do story work, and we're going to do meditation, and I think there's going to be a rage room available as well. So, just in case when somebody gets in touch with something and they need to go, I need 10 minutes. You just do your thing. Go
Yeah.
feel your feelings,
Oh my
whatever.
gosh. Oh, I love that. And such a good place for that, like the woods, because if you've never been to Wimberley, it's beautiful. It's just
Yeah.
stunning.
So beautiful.
Hillies
Yeah.
and trees everywhere and just
Yeah. This
wonderful.
place, Lotus Ranch, is like run by beautiful, like hippie, like chill people.
Oh, yes.
And it's
Lotus
very,
Ranch.
it's very, low to the ground, super simple, not fancy, not bougie, but it's really beautiful and lovely.
Yeah.
And
Simple. Oh,
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
So,
Well, I will be sure to tag all of that stuff in the show notes,
thank
including
you.
your social media as well, so you can follow. So every morning you can wake up to good morning, you eternal beautiful soul, having a human experience. I look
That's
forward
it.
to that every morning.
That's it. Yeah. And I meditate and then just say, what do you want to tell them? And then I just walk out the door and
Yeah.
record the video.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was great.
This was great. Well, we end this podcast. I end it on the same way every single time, and it is expect good things always, and they will happen. So if you subscribe to that message, then we can send them off with that together. So
Absolutely.
great.
Expect good things to happen, and they will happen because they are happening because your life is for you, because you're the
Yes.
one running it.
Oh,
How about that?
Snaps. We are ending it on that. That was beautiful. So please connect with Rick the Story Healer, and we'll be tagging all of your amazing offerings for everybody. And this episode was just so much fun for me. So thank you. I have been wanting to do an episode like this, but I am not the expert. So thank you for coming on and giving us your experts research and thoughts and just everything, your knowledge. Thank you for sharing that knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. It was a real honor to be with you. And everybody, thanks y'all so much.
Thank you.